Okay, let's review the steps for creating a feedback mechanism using a timeline. I'll close out of any source code editor windows and open up my P1 exercises source code file. This is a fairly simple exercise, but it's extremely important. Up until this point in the course, all of our feedback statements have resided in the defined programs section of our code. If we scroll down to the bottom of our code, there's even a warning built into the template about changing variables in defined program. As a matter of best practice, we'll put any future feedback statements inside the timeline we're about to build. With the advanced capabilities of timelines, there really is no need to use defined program at all. With that said, let's build our timeline. First, we'll scroll up to the Define Constants section and define our timeline as a long, and we'll call it TL feedback. According to the exercise requirements, let's assign it an ID of 1. Next, down in the Define Variable section, we need to define an array for the time. It's going to be a volatile long, and we'll call it L feedback time. Once again, according to the exercise requirements, the time we desire is 100 milliseconds. Then, with those two variables defined, we write the code to create the timeline in the Define Start section. We start with the timeline create keyword. Then inside a set of parentheses, we include the 5 necessary parameters. First, the timeline ID, which we named TL feedback. The second parameter is the array of times, which was defined as L feedback time. The third parameter is basically how many times are in the array. The easiest way to write this is length array with L feedback time inside a set of parentheses. The fourth parameter is whether the times are absolute or relative. In this case, we want the times to be absolute. And the final parameter in our timeline create statement is if the timeline should run once or if it should repeat. We want this timeline to run all the time, so we'll set it to timeline repeat. Now that the code's been written to define and create the feedback timeline, we'll need to add an event to actually run the feedback code when the feedback timeline generates an event. Scroll down to the bottom of the Define Events section, and let's add a timeline event. Which timeline are we looking for an event from? TL feedback. The final step is simple. Just scroll down and copy all the feedback statements from the Define Program section. Scroll back up and paste them into our new timeline event. I'll now make sure to remove every bit of code from the Define Program section. If you want to delete it, that's fine. I'll just comment it out and put a note in here that all the feedback statements have been moved into a timeline. Make sure you compile your code and you don't have any errors. Congratulations! You've just created your first of many feedback timelines. Be sure to save your source code and close out of any source code editor windows before moving on to the next lesson.